Hi, we are back with another episode of I'll Be Honest. I'm Brittany.
I'm Erin.
And we have Kenzie with us today. She is the owner of I Do Weddings here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And she's going to help us understand the difference between coordinators and planners and why you need one and which one you may need. And just kind of navigating through that process, as well as she is engaged and planning her own wedding. And so we've talked a little bit about like my process planning, and it's going to be really cool to hear her process as a planner.
Yeah, I know.
So
looking forward to it.
Why don't you kind of just open it up and talk a little bit about like how you got started with this, and a little bit about yourself.
So I've always been a planner. I'm very type A, very organized. And so when I came to college, I was just kind of, just talked about weddings to people I knew and people I was in school with. And there was this one guy who was like, oh, I just got an email from a planner looking for interns. So like, if you are interested, you should like email her. And I was like, okay. So I did. And so I started working.
And here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I started working with the planner, and then fast forward and COVID hit. And so all the I did a bunch of weddings, became a lead coordinator for her. And then COVID hit. And so all the weddings that like I had on the calendar kind of got taken away. And I was like, well, maybe this is a good time for me to just, do my own thing.
Yep.
And so I was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, I'll be fine. Yeah. So I like post on Facebook Marketplace and, or like the buy sell trade page. And I was like, I just want some experience. And so I did a few weddings for free, which was so fun. And then
I'm sure a full learning experience of
for sure
trauma.
Yes, definitely. And then I like started booking for like pennies on the dollar, and I was like, okay, like I can do this. Like I was starting to get confidence, and then I ended up getting an inquiry for like the same date that I was already booked. And so I was like, what do I do? I was like, I don't want to say no. So I hired my first assistant coordinator. And so I started with one, and then that quickly grew to like 5, and then 10, and then 15. And it kind of has stuck around that like 15-ish number. And then I ended up hiring like full-time assistants and this and that. And so now I have one full-time assistant and then a team of about 14-ish. Depends on the day. And so, we just do, we do everything from, just plain old day of coordinating to full planning. We're starting to offer like an all-inclusive package, for the people that don't want to deal with anything. They just show up and they're surprised as well when it comes to their day. But some people like that. Some people don't care. Like it. Yeah.
So how long was all of that? Like from the free marketplace, Craigslist.
I know. Yeah, literally.
To now.
So that was in 2019 is when I officially like did my first weddings. I technically started in like 2018, like the planning process, but I like started my business and I was like, okay, this is my brand now. Like these are my weddings. This is my brand. In 2019, I Do Weddings was official. And then fast forward through all of, COVID and all that stuff. And then in 2021, like post-COVID was the post-COVID boom. So
it was.
In 22.
2021 was a unhinged, stressful, great year.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was.
It
really was. I think it really taught me what I was capable of, because we went from we did six or 7 weddings in 2019, 20 in 2020, and then we did 86 in 2025.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I was like, 40.
Yeah.
Double that.
Yeah. And then in 22, we did over 100. 22 and 23, we did over 100. So, and then 24 kind of like slowed back down a little bit. So we dropped back down to like 86. But then for 2025, I think we're on track to do over 100 again. So
that's great.
And when you say like over 100, are we talking anything on that gamut of coordinating to the all-inclusive? So tell me, like, do you have a percentage? Like if you had a little wheel and you're like, this percentage is over here and this, what do you say is your top one that people pick?
Definitely coordinating. Our coordinating package, which is more like there's different terminology, but our coordinating package is like a month of coordinating.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, I would say that's about like 70 60 to 70%. And then our semi-planning, partial planning package is like maybe like 5%. There's only a few that really fit into that category. And then our full planning is probably a good like 15 to 20% of our brides. And we just started our all-inclusive, so we haven't like officially booked any total ones yet, but full planning, and I'll kind of get into definitions later, but our full planning, I would say we probably do anywhere from like 20 to 25 of those a year. So yeah, it's like about 20 to 25% of our weddings. And then with that, all of our brides, we are always like, I always tell them when like on their consult call, I'm like, you know, we're always available to you if you have questions. So even those month of people, like we're still kind of involved in answering questions and giving recommendations and like all that type of thing. But we don't really like get into the thick of it until that like 6 week out mark. And with all of our couples, that 6 week out mark, we're like, okay, crunch time. Like we're going to finalize final numbers, timeline's done, layout is done, send it out to everyone, all the vendors, make sure everyone's good to go. And then we, you know, that is kind of that moment where it's like everything that you have done or that we have helped you do, like we're going to switch. And like now it's on us, and like we are taking over that communication. So like, you know, you don't have a bunch of people bothering you with questions. They're bothering us with questions. And you only have one person bothering you, and that's us. So, so it just kind of like funnels it down to like, you know, it's just like you and I working on stuff, and maybe like your lead coordinator or whoever. But yeah, so that's kind of like brief overview of like our process. And but yeah, so but it's a lot of fun, and my assistant Emily and I are the ones, like we just shared like a reel on our Instagram that was like us like being goofy at a wedding, and it was
I love
like
that one.
The ones that are
with the
answering
no
our
sound.
emails.
There was another I did like that one
where it was like, these are the ones answering your emails, and it was like us like being goofy at a wedding, and it was like, yeah, we're pros.
You guys are so fun though. Like it's actually like really fun. I love working with
we
you.
try to have fun with it.
Okay, so if a bride inquires with you, bride and groom, and they are just like at square one, do not know what they need, what is kind of the funneling of direction? How do you give them the right package? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on, I normally like start by asking like the basic info, like date, venue, guest count, ceremony time. And then I kind of get into like, you know, I just ask generally, I'm like, okay, have you had a chance to like book any vendors, or are you still working on that? And that is usually like the question that kind of helps me gauge, because they're either like, well, I got everything booked except for XYZ, or I have an idea, or blah, blah, blah. Or they're like, I have no idea. And so I'm like, perfect. So, and some of them, they're like, well, I haven't gotten into it yet, but like, I do plan on yada, yada, because it kind of gives me a sense of like how hands-on they want to be. Because there are some brides that I can just tell, or just couples in general, where I can tell when I'm talking to them on the phone that they are like, they're not excited about the planning process. They are like overwhelmed by it. And I'm like,
never
happens.
It's crazy. I don't know. No. It's so weird. But yeah, so I try to like, you know, offer them, because like I had one bride that I did, you know, I was talking to her about like a, you know, semi, and she's like, I feel like I can handle it. And then I guess she went and talked to her fiance, and she emailed me, and she was like, he doesn't think I can handle it. So I was like, oh, okay.
But isn't that great? They had that conversation.
Yes.
He's like, babe, I know you.
Yes.
And we're going to give it to Kenzie. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are my favorite. Like when, you know, mom or someone is like, but think about it. Like, do you really want to deal with this? And like, I think it'd be better if you just delegated. And I'm like,
yes.
Yeah.
Let me help you.
Yeah. Because I do feel, because I have had people ask me like, you know, what do you think the difference is? Or why would you recommend a bigger package? And I'm like, well, I feel like the people that just book like coordinating month out, whatever, like most of the time they do a great job, but it's kind of like we're swooping in at the last minute, and then we're like, okay, you did good, but like now like we have to fix this, and we have to change this, and we have to do this. And so there's a lot of like last minute things in that last month, which are already like stressed about all sorts of things.
That would stress me out a lot.
Yeah. So I tell them, I'm like, when it comes to like even the semi-planning brides, I'm like, we're more involved in the process. So it's like we're kind of like walking with you and doing check-ins along the way. So that way, like before you book a vendor or like as you're trying to figure it out, like you have guidance along the way as opposed to just being like, yeah, that sounds good. Because there are some vendors where they might know what they're talking about, but when it comes to a certain venue, a certain wedding style, a certain whatever, where it's like, okay, but that doesn't apply in this situation. So it's like, that sounds great in theory, but like with this venue, we can't do that. And so that's kind of where I have to swoop in and be the bad guy and be like, actually, like we can't do that. And so I just kind of have to, guide that. But when I'm more involved or when we're more involved in the process, then I feel like we don't have as many snafus on the wedding day because we have been more involved. And usually the people that book our fuller planning packages, semi or full planning, take our recommendations more. So I feel like we end up working with people that we know and trust and do a great job as opposed to maybe some person that we've never met before that may be great or not, might not be great. So
You're like, who dis?
So yeah, and there's always like that learning curve, and like we have dealt with that to where we try, like if it's a name we don't recognize, we try to like check in on the front end and ask them all the questions and like send them the timeline and make sure they're good with it. But then there's just some things where it's
you can't control everything.
So go over, like you've mentioned coordinating, semi-planning, full planning, and exclusive. So it sounds like there's like 4, or at least with your company.
Yes, definitely. Every company is a little bit different, and some only do the more like fully involved coordinating or planning and stuff where they are like all hands on deck type of thing. And then there are others I feel like that are similar to myself and my business where they kind of offer all different levels. And so coordinating is some planners offer a day of coordinating package, which is, totally up to you, but that is where, they show up day of and you expect them to kind of just run the day. I don't really know how that works because
Is it mainly just like having a point person? Is that the reason why people just do day of? Like just to have like a...
I think it's mostly for setup purposes because...
they're like just putting like the puzzle together. The pieces are there. You're just putting it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing where they're like, we set up one like mock place setting, so I just need someone to come in and do the rest.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay.
I'm not really sure.
You don't do that.
I don't offer that because I don't find it to be like, I don't feel like we can successfully do what we need to do by just showing up the day of. I'm like, I need a phone call 6 weeks in advance. I need a timeline that is completely filled out. I need all of this prep work to make sure I can make sure your day goes as best as possible.
Was there a learning curve on that? Did you have something like that, or you saw it, or you knew it? Like, how did you know that was not for you? You're like, I'm type A. That's it.
Right. That, and also...
have you met me?
Yeah, right. And I also feel like when I worked for, or have worked for other planners, because I definitely have tons of planner friends who, need a helping hand on days. And so I'll help out. But I just feel like for me, I need certain things to know what I'm doing. And like, I like to have all my notes that I'm familiar with the format and it maybe it is just me like type A, but I'm like, I know like if this thing in red is not answered, like I know that's a question we need to figure out.
Yeah.
But with other people's timelines or whatever, it's just different. And sometimes like brides are like, oh, I have a timeline. Like I'll send it to you. And it's like a spreadsheet of like 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m. And I'm like, what is happening?
There's these times in between.
What's happening in between there? And then like with the reception, they're like, it's kind of like with a photography timeline where y'all have like the really thorough, like on the front end. And
they're like, reception
is like, and it's like, it's like toast and cake and dances and speeches and all this
like
all
I
in
know
one
it's gonna
line.
get builded.
And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, how is that going to
No,
go?
because I'm
though?
literally like, then you take it to your planner.
Yeah.
And then they like coop.
Yeah.
That's when I can be like, what? Bye.
Yeah, exactly.
And then chicken out 10.
Yeah. So I'm like, that piece, I'm like, we have to like break that up into like 10 bullet points. But yeah, so that I think is kind of just for the brides that feel like they have a really, really good handle on it and don't really need anyone except for, I don't want to make my family work. I want someone else to do it. We have to get ready, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that's probably best for day of coordinating. Like I said, I don't have a lot of experience or knowledge because I've just never fooled with that.
So that was, so for you, it's like, that's the lowest for you. It's sort of a month of, or like some other companies do day of. So what's then the next tier up from there?
Yeah. So
well, let me actually ask this. Pricing.
Yeah.
For that. Obviously, it's sort of the least involved. I'm assuming the lowest cost.
Yes. For a day of, just the day of, which is like they're literally showing up for 8-10 hours and then they're leaving and there's not a lot of like work or prep or anything, is going to probably run between like 400 and 800.
Wow.
But then the month of coordinating, which is what a lot of other planners like coordinating package usually is like a month of coordinating. That is going to be, you know, we're talking 6 weeks out, we're finalizing details, and then we're executing. And so that is probably going to range more between like the 800 and like 15, 18-ish hundred range. Obviously, there's a lot of variables.
I was going to say, there's a lot, right? Depending on city, location.
Travel, how many people they're bringing. Every planner is just different. Level of experience, yada, yada, yada. So yeah, there's all these different factors. But that's, so I know that's like a really like $1,000 range, but it really does just depend on all those variables. My answer to everything when brides ask me questions or people ask me questions is it depends. Yeah. Because there's just so many variables. It's so hard to just do like a blanket, like anything.
There's no way.
I'm like, okay, I have like 13 follow-up questions and then I can get you an answer.
I love when they're like, I have a question. You're like, I have way more. Okay. You're like, don't you worry. I'm going to like put it right back on you.
Exactly. And then, but step up from coordinating, the people that do want more involved is like a partial, ours is called our semi-planning package, where we're helping them find a couple extra vendors. Like for my package, it's 3 vendor categories. And then they also get additional like planning documents. So like their budget worksheet, planning to-do list, guest list management, timeline. So it's like, and then we are checking in with them every couple months. We'll schedule a call to like go over the progress they've done. And then we'll also go through those 3 vendor categories, because some vendors for some people are harder to book than others because there's more variables. Like with photography, I feel like it's obviously everyone's packages are different, but it's a lot about style. Yeah. And so it's a very personal choice for like the couple. But for something like catering or even bartending or florals or hair and makeup, even like some of those, it's like, well, you got to figure out the timing and you got to figure out the number of stylists and the whatever. Like there's just so many more variables that sometimes like, or level of communication, because there are some vendors that are not as good with communicating.
No way.
Like I feel like photographers are usually always on top of it when it comes to like getting back to me when I'm inquiring. But then sometimes, like I was listening to y'all's episode with Samantha and she was talking about how hair and makeup people aren't sometimes the best to respond because they're like in a salon. So I'm like, they're not just sitting in front of a computer looking at emails. Like they're doing stuff. So, and that's what I tell people when they're like, my hair and makeup girl won't reply. I'm like,
she's doing 20
she's literally putting bobby pins in right now as we
So but yeah, so even that when they're like, you know, this is overwhelming, will you take it over? So that's what we do with the vendors, and then we check in, and then same thing, we get closer, we finalize and execute. And then you have like full planning, which is, you know, I really don't have any of my vendors. I need you to help me find all of them. And
including venue, date, all the stuff. Like we are a clean slate.
Yes. If a lot of times people will come to me with a venue and a date, already, or at least an idea. But if they don't even have that, then that will definitely be included in like our full planning. We'll help them find that. But the rest of the vendors will help figure out. With our package, we also, and this again is different based on your planner, but with our package, we also help with like the design elements. So like we can help with the rentals, we can help with the printed stuff, like the save the dates, invitations, menus, programs, like all of that. And then all the signage. We also have a decor inventory
with the full planning. Or just,
yes.
or are we going
just
higher
in
now?
General, we have it, and so we also have the option to where people can like add it on to any of their packages, or they can just rent things a la carte, like if they just don't have room for a big old easel, like that type of thing. But yeah, with the full planning, they also get access to that in our package. And then with the all-inclusive, it gets into like, you know, we will do everything for you. Just tell me what you want and I'll make it happen. So that is really
You're
like,
literally like, just
awesome.
take the wheel, Jesus.
yes,
Where
yes. And that is, and a big question I have started getting like, now that we're offering this is like, what's the difference between full planning and all-inclusive? And I think this does apply to a lot of other planners. Like if they offer that, is with the full planning, it's like you're way more involved in every step of the way. You're talking to your vendors, you're getting a feel for, you're doing whatever. But with the all-inclusive, you are just talking to me. And you're telling me, like, tell me what you want from your caterer. Like, what type of food do you want? What type of apps do you want? What, like, with your bar, what drinks do you want? What do you want to offer? With your hair and makeup, what styles do you like? And then I'm going to go and find all those people and put it all together and then basically give you with a bow, like, this is what's going to happen. And this is what you wanted. So this is what you're getting.
You just show up.
Yeah. And they just show up. So
that is me. I'm like, can I just detail like the
truly.
3 things I want? And then if they have like, that's it. That's what I would do. So pricing wise, because we went from maybe like 1,800 for the semi-planning, and now we're in full planning.
Yeah.
So, but again, we're ranging it, right? Like there's a range. And then if you're adding on like all like a la carte stuff.
Yeah, it definitely ranges. With the semi and the full, it's definitely going to depend on your planner. But I would say a lot of those probably range anywhere. Again, it's a big range, but like from 2,500 to like 3,500. And then your full planning is probably going to be like 35 to 45 plus. Just depending on the planner you use. And then all inclusive is really just going to depend. It so depends on so many variables. But I would say like, it also, a big thing, it depends on guest count. Because obviously the less people you have, the more you can kind of cut costs and stuff like that. But it's gonna...
Stupid question then, when you're talking about variables. Like I see variables, of course, as a photographer, like 4 hours is different than 8 hours. A Thursday wedding is different than a Sunday wedding or whatever. So obviously, does that cost then change a lot? Like depending on, let's say I want to be like, I know nothing. I want the book. I want you to hand me with a bow. Obviously, will that change for a small micro wedding versus a 10-hour 150 wedding?
Yeah.
Right? Is that where the cost then kind of can really go?
Yeah. And that really for, I mean, any type of wedding, it's like your guest count is definitely going to be one of your biggest factors when it comes to cost. Because like my wedding is going to be like 200 people. So all of my costs are going to be a lot higher than someone who's having like a 50-person wedding.
Right.
Because my variable costs are going to be a lot more. But the variables that I'm thinking of is like, you know, do you want a plated dinner? Do you want a buffet?
Right.
Do you want past stops? Do you want tabled apps? Do you want signature cocktails or you just want beer and wine? Do you want 10 hours of photography or do you just care about the special moments so you're good with 4 hours? Do you want a videographer or no? Do you want strings or just a DJ all night? Do you want a band Because that's going to be expensive. Do you want...
Everyone's watching this
and we're drinking.
All inclusive for me, sir.
With rentals, it's like, do you want china? Or are you okay with disposables? Do you want linens on your tables? Do you want farm tables? Like, these are all with your officiant. Are you okay with a woman? Or only a man? Do you need something that is more like civil? Or are you okay with, are you getting legally married? Do you even need an officiant? Like, that is all the stuff that I think about.
There's so many.
Yes.
I think of so many things in photography, but I think this podcast has been like, there's so much more.
So much
more
Layers
planning that
upon
goes
layers
into it.
upon
Like,
layers upon
obviously,
layers.
like, duh.
But truly, this is so silly, but I didn't even realize all of the layers until I started planning my wedding.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Because I
Okay.
have been in this forever, but
So,
I'm like, right.
Did you feel that? Did you feel that? Have that layer pull back where you're like, I'm a planner. Was there something that caught you off guard when you started planning your wedding?
I think the hardest part for me, like the vendors and everything, that was easy for me. Like, I think I literally booked all my vendors like within a week of each other.
It's like, everyone.
Yeah.
Like, you know what you want.
I work with people. I have tons of experience with all my vendors, like, and they, do a good job and blah, blah, blah. Like, all I needed from them were like contracts. How do I pay you? Yep. Like, that's really all I needed. And then when it came to the hardest part for me has been getting the vision that I have had, because obviously I've been in weddings for almost 10 years. And so getting the vision that I've had from like my Pinterest and in my head to real life and like finding those pieces and figuring out what everyone's going to wear. That has been a big struggle, but I finally found my dress. So now,
like your guests or your like bridal wedding party?
Me, my bridesmaids, the groomsmen, Michael, my mom, his stepmom, the dads, like all of the family. I know. All of the family, like they're all asking me, they're like, oh, well, what do you want me to wear? What color do you want me to wear? And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I just found my dress like on Tuesday. And so I just found my dress this past week. And so now that I've like checked that box off, I feel like I can figure out everyone else's. Yeah. But like that was the biggest stressor for me. So for me, I think it's the vendor side of it, which usually stresses everyone else out, or is like one of the big stressors for everyone else. For me, was really easy.
It was the other side.
It's the other side. It's the personal side. It's, okay, I have to get everyone's addresses. I have to actually design and order save the dates for myself. And like they get to look like what I want them to look like. Like I don't have to get them approved by anyone because Michael doesn't care. Yeah. So I was like, I think I did it. And I was like, what do you think of this? He was like, nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 thumbs up.
Sounds good. So yeah. So I just went ahead and like, I'm like, okay, like that piece. And now like hearing all, like everyone has been saying in the last couple of weeks, they're like, oh, I got your save the date. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Like you're now it is yours.
Side. Yes. And so I think that's the thing. Cause like I have sent save the dates and invites out for other people.
But you
like,
don't get that feedback.
I don't get, that. Oh. Or I just hear the brides like come to me and they're like, there was a problem with I'm like, so yeah.
You're like, actually, I get the other side of it.
Yeah. So it's a lot more rewarding that it's with mine. And I haven't gotten like, and I've started having people ask me like about, like hotel blocks and, what's around and yada, yada, and that type of thing. So
that's
personal piece I've had to do. Yeah. So the personal side is the side for me that like threw me off. Mm-hmm. But the vendor side, that has been, pretty easy.
Good. Okay, we're going to take a quick break to talk about our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Chop Chop Beauty Club.
My name is Samantha, and I'm the owner and creative director of Chop Chop Beauty Club. We are a luxury on-site hair and makeup team, and we make sure that not only is your wedding day service exactly what you're looking for, but we work really hard on the back end to make sure that the whole booking and scheduling process is seamless. I like to say that we are a set it and forget it type of company. You have so many things that you are dealing with when you're planning a wedding. You're booking photographers, you're booking catering, things like that. We don't want to be one more thing on your to-do list. So we have all of our communication perfectly timed out So you never have to reach out to us. We will always reach out to you for whatever milestone is around the corner. Our genderless and all-inclusive service menu ensures that you will get exactly the service that is for you. Whether that is a more skincare forward makeup service, if you don't really like to wear a lot of makeup, or if you need to rent hair extensions, our Dream Hair Club is for you. So we have all the tips and tricks to make your wedding or special event perfect.
So thank you, Sam, for providing incredible services for brides and groups everywhere. We absolutely adore you. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
If I could just explain to people, even though you're in weddings and you work weddings, I think it actually is at a detriment in some ways because you're seeing so much for 10 years.
Yes.
Like every weekend, hundreds and hundreds of weddings. I have that whole catalog in the back of my brain.
Yes.
I'm thinking about every single invitation that I saw and have photographed. Like I think about all of it. And I'm like, oh, I like this one particular flower detail that this one wedding had and this one, like, do you have a little bit of that? Because you have even more in your brain. Like,
Or did you
like
both have like a set concrete base and then you were building, or were you taking it with you as you continue to go through the vendor world, or both? Like you had a base and you're picking up, or did you toss some stuff? You're like, I'm not doing that.
yeah.
Definitely have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that was one thing. So my mom is so tired of hearing me say this, but this entire planning process, especially when it comes to like what it's going to look like, the entire time I've been like, I just want to do something different.
Yeah.
I want to do something different. I want to do something I've never seen before. When I have talked to, like, you know, when I was shopping for dresses or whatever, and people that don't really know me, I would say things and they would kind of like look at me. I was like, I'm a wedding planner.
Yeah.
Like that's my job. And they're like, oh, okay. Like they could sense that like I knew things. And so I was just kind of, even today Michael and my brother and I just went to go look at suits like for the guys. And the guy that was there, he was like, when's your date? I was like, February. And he was like, oh, like he was so caught off guard because he's like, it is so far away. And I'm like, well, I just, you know, I'm a planner. But yeah, I think she's like, I'm like, I just want to do something different. And so I have a lot of trends, even over the last like 8 years, that have been in and out that I'm like, I don't really want to do any of that. Like I want it to be timeless because I see so many trends.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I'm surprised by that. Surprised, not surprised. So no, is there any, is there one? Any?
I'm trying to think.
Like, are you doing, can I just ask the question? Like, like bartending?
Yeah.
Signature cocktails?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Like stuff like that I'll definitely do. But things like, oh gosh, I can't even think of an
Champagne
example.
tower.
No.
I knew that was going to be. I knew that. That's why
Champagne wall. Like literally like all those things that it's like
so impractical. Even like champagne in general, I'm like, I'll have it available because I do like champagne, but I am like the people who are like, I want to do a champagne toast. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like you do not need to do that because half the people aren't going to drink it. Like just offer it. And if people want to get it from the bar, they can. But forcing everyone
put it on
to
like
have,
every.
I'm like, listen, when I'm bussing tables, do you know how many cups of that champagne are still full at the end of the night that I just have to dump out and toss?
Oh, yeah.
Because
that hurts my heart a little bit.
Yeah.
And just like cha-ching, cha-ching,
Yeah.
cha-ching.
yeah,
Wasteful.
I would say like a welcome champagne is definitely going to be more widely accepted than a champagne toast. And it's a lot easier to do. So it's that type of thing where I'm like, but for me, I'm like, I don't care that much. So I'm like, I'm good with just doing champagne at the bar. If people want it, they can have it. If not, it's fine. But yeah, that type of thing. I'm like,
Okay.
I'm not doing the trendy, like champagne towers are not practical. Like they just don't work. That's one of those things that's really pretty on Pinterest, but in reality, and like
In
the pictures are
reality.
great, but in reality, it's just
I'm terrified of those glasses falling.
Same.
Oh my
That's where I'm
gosh.
at.
Same.
Yeah.
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 And normally they've had a couple of drinks like by the time that they're actually doing the champagne tower, and I'm like,
bumping
oh,
the
be
table.
careful.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. For
Yeah,
sure.
we talked a little bit about trends and like if you're gonna do a trend, embrace it, but
Yeah,
also recognize it as
right.
a trend.
Yeah.
And be okay with the fact
Yeah.
that you're doing a trend.
Definitely.
But yeah, when you see it over and over, and you see really like it feels when you're planning it within a trend, and that's you're only planning a wedding, you're not working in weddings. You're only seeing that and you're excited because that's what everyone is doing and it's inspirational and whatever. But then like when you see it over a 10-year span, in and out, in and out, in and out, and you can almost date. Oh yeah, that wedding was 2018 because I remember that, and like COVID, post-COVID when we were all doing this, like
Yes.
you can kind of date it, and I don't want that
Yeah.
to feel that way. I don't want my
Yeah.
wedding to feel dated by
Yeah.
a
I know, see, I'm the grandma on the panel, okay? So I don't ever remember feeling like I needed a trend. I was sort of, you know, when my husband and I got married, we were like maybe wedding number 10 out of our friend group. So I
Yeah.
had seen a lot, but a lot of them were really like logistical stuff.
Yeah.
Between a church and a like hotel ballroom was
Yeah.
huge for like us. That's what everybody was sort of doing. Like church, hotel, church, whatever. I cannot remember. I don't think I can remember one that didn't involve a church.
Yeah. I know. I
In
feel like
there?
that was like a
It was
yeah.
a big thing. And then after we got married, then like venues, like local started popping up. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It felt so new.
Yeah.
But I never remember being like, I have to do this trend or I have to do the champagne thing.
I think that's
or
social
any
media,
of that sort
though.
of stuff.
I think that is 100% social media.
Thank God, because that would have
Do you
stressed me
feel
the
like
hell
that,
out.
Kins? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's like something. I mean, okay, think about TikTok. You have an Alex Earl waterline white eyeliner. Everyone was wearing white eyeliner under their eyes because Alex Earl did it, and it only lasted for like a year. But it felt like everyone was doing it, and then it moves on to something else, and it's like the viralness of something just takes off, and then that feels like the cool thing to do, or like I don't know. I'm not sure what the psychology behind it is, but I think it's probably feeling like you're part of something, or you're I don't know. But I don't feel like it was that intense at that point when you were planning weddings. Like I feel like 2013 to even like 2017, 2018, I didn't see a lot of huge groundbreaking.
But let me ask you, maybe same answer. What was the first vendor that you booked?
Oh, yeah, I want to know this.
Ooh. Probably my venue.
Okay.
Because I wasn't worried about them booking up because I was like the crazy bride that was like looking at my date like last year to see like if it booked, and I was like, okay, and it never did because I'm getting married in February.
So
like
it's a
slow
non-prime.
season,
Yes.
slow season, and my venue, I still like even this February has come and gone, and I don't think they booked anything the weekend that like because I'm getting married the last weekend in February,
Okay.
and I don't think they booked anything like this past last weekend in February. So I was like, okay, I think I'm good. But that was definitely the first thing that I was like, I need to check that off my list. And then I think like probably after that was like photo video, because it was going to be like a set amount I knew who I wanted to work with. And then after that I did like cake tasting, catering tasting. DJ was another one I booked early. I mean, really all of them. It was so fast.
Yeah.
That it just, I think
Like all within, like you said, like a week. You're like, once it got started, that was it.
Yes. And my other thing was I went ahead and for me, just because I knew who I wanted to work with, I went ahead and paid like all the retainers because I'm like, I mean, I know I want to work with you.
Yeah.
And a lot of the retainers were just flat rates, like numbered amounts.
Yeah.
So I just went ahead and paid all those. And then like I went and did my catering tasting and we figured out what we needed. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So I'm like, I know, the remainder of my catering invoice that I have to pay now. But I was like, I know the deposit is $1,200. So I'm just going to go ahead and send that and sign the contract and whatever. So that was kind of my thought process and for me, since I want so many of my vendor friends to like come to my wedding, I also felt the need to go ahead and like put it out there and be like, hey, just so you know, because even my friends that I didn't book as vendors, like the ones that are
I'm
coming
realizing
as
probably
guests.
nobody else in Knoxville is allowed to get married
Yeah,
that day because you're like,
literally.
they're booked. Like, all right, I'm
Yeah.
coming. I'm going to be a guest.
Yeah. So,
Whoops.
yeah, I know. But you want to know the worst part though?
Yes.
Because I don't like to say no. So we actually had 2 other weddings booked the same day I'm getting married.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. So
fine.
might be
Casual.
subcontracting some contractors or
Little thing.
coordinators that day. So it's okay.
Funny.
I have like, I'm not in like my personal team. I have like 14 people, and I'm not inviting my entire team just because, you know, some I'm personally close with and some it's just very work professional. So some of them I'm like, it's okay.
You can handle it.
You can work that
Yeah.
day. It's okay.
Yeah, it's
so
fine.
Brittany,
it'll be
did
fine.
you hire all your people in 1 week?
Heck no. We have type A.
I was looking at you like, this is not Brittany.
Not me just booking my DJ this week.
It's fine.
But immediately, like, I knew, like, photo and video obviously are like very important
Right.
to us, and so
Yeah.
we're like immediately. I think even before we like finalized a date, it
Yeah.
was like, you're gonna do our like.
Oh,
I need you to
I was like, whatever
block
date you
off.
pick, I'm there. So just
And then truly, like, we changed our date like 3 times before we even had a venue.
I was like, I actually kind of really do need to know your
Finally,
day
was like,
before I start
know.
booking
Just not say
anything.
anything to anyone anymore until we have something finalized. And then we found the venue, and then, but really, like, we got engaged in March, and we booked our venue in August. Like, it's so wild because what I thought I was gonna do versus what I have done is very different.
Yeah.
Like, part of it has just been logistical, like trying to figure out what is even important. Like, because there were things that I thought were important, then I didn't actually feel like they were important. And then on the flip, like things that I was like, oh, I'm not going to care about that I ended up really caring about. So photo, video, venue were our 3.
But even though DJ was really important to you, a big
I just
part,
struggled.
that
with,
was your last one.
That was my last one because, like, you said, like, you had people that you knew you were going to hire right off the bat. And we kind of were like that even with a DJ, and they were all booked, which is dumb. And so, so literally we were like, well, crap, like, now what do we do? And initially, like, when we had a date before we changed it, like, one of them was available. And then when we moved it from a Sunday to a Saturday, he was like, not anymore. And then it just sent us into a spiral of like, well, crap, this is how we have
We're
a
not even
vision.
getting married anymore.
Literally, we were like, well, if he can't be there, then what's the point? There's no point. Like, we could just elope. Like, it was like months of grieving, actually. And like, I think like that's even a huge thing to say. Like, there have been people that, like, yeah, you envision and then it doesn't happen, which is just a testament to how great those people are. But so
definitely
a little bit more type B than you.
Well,
That's fine.
That's fine. Well, and that's definitely, I think that's my thing is I was like, because I've just been imagining everything for so long that I'm like, if I can't have like what I want, then I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. So but that's I would have done the same thing, but I am getting married in the off season. So that's kind of was half strategic, half just my vibe. So it just worked out that way. And so I was like, even so much so that my date is 6 weeks ish after my birthday. And I normally tell people to have their guests RSVP about 6 weeks before the wedding. And so I was like, cool. So when people text me happy birthday, I can be like, thank you, go RSVP.
You are so type A.
I know.
You're like, I can't wait for my birthday that I can then like demand stuff from other people. Right now. Go in there.
The best gift you could give me is to go RSVP
Go
on my
RSVP.
website right now. Yeah, I know.
ASAP.
I'm like, I realized that the other day and I was like, God, I'm so crazy. So.
He knows what he's getting into. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
No, absolutely.
For sure.
He's well aware that everything was, he kind of knew that obviously this is my livelihood. So he was like, all of my friends were joking that they were like, yeah, at this point, like, Kenzie just needed to find the groom. Like, the wedding was done. It was just the groom that we needed to just, like, plug in there. So,
Michael.
yeah,
Nice that he's here.
I know. Yeah.
Well, good for you.
He's good. But, yeah.
Okay, you want to do some wedding myths?
Yeah, let's toss them in. You got a list?
Yeah, I got a list.
All right.
Okay, I kind of want you to debunk some things if you're down for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that there are a lot of like preconceived notions, like we were talking about like even just how much things cost. But I really want to know what you think about. Okay. Well, first, actually, can we go into story? Like if she has a horror story.
Oh,
Can we do
yeah.
that
Okay,
first?
so one of the things I wanted to ask you is if of course everybody is like, oh, you must see a lot of stories, or you have the one or whatever. Is there, okay, so I want to ask you very specific though.
Yeah.
Is there a story that you have that literally changed your contract?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yes.
Okay.
There are a couple.
I was like, mine keeps getting longer and longer every year.
I've added several clauses to my contract.
All right, what's the one?
The biggest one that like was not only for me, but like I'm like, I have a team. I've had a team. Like I need to protect my girls. And my team was, I had a wedding in 2023, I want to say, that the father of the bride they were from New York, they were Italians, they were just very intense. And the father of the bride, like, was kind of doing that thing where he meant well because he wants the best for his daughter, but also just took it too far.
Oh, no.
And so he was like, and I had gotten multiple warnings about him before the fact.
From who?
From the bride and groom.
Okay.
Who also told me that the maid of honor and the best man were well aware of the situation. If anything is said or done, like, just grab them and let them know. And so I was like mentally prepared for this, but I also like just even after doing it, I guess at that point it was closer to like 6 years that he was just screaming at me, and it was silly little things, but he was screaming at me and then taking it a step further and like insulting my character and saying, I don't know what I'm doing. And like, you know, how could I be so stupid and blah, blah, blah. And so he yelled at me and I took it like a champ. And then after he was done yelling at me, I went outside and I cried. And Michael was at that wedding that day. So of course he was like all fired up and ready to fight someone. But after that, it not only changed my contract, but it immediately caused me to send out an addendum, a no harassment addendum.
Yeah.
Because
like to your other book people.
Yes.
Like it was that
To my
bad. Like
booked
we are going to
clients,
do this.
Yes. To my booked clients and then I added it to my contract for future clients because I was like, if anyone were to scream at any of my girls that way, they do not need to be put in that situation. That is ridiculous that they can't act like adults and humans, and that is very rude. And like, it was just one of those things where the first thing he said, it was just kind of like, you know, just misunderstanding, like, it's okay, like, whatever. And then the second time was meaner, and then the third time was meaner, and then he was just insulting my character and my personality, and I was like, what's the matter with you?
Yeah, on your daughter's wedding day, like, let's get a bit of a grip.
Right. And and eventually I did say something to the maid of honor and the best man, and I was like trying to keep it together, but I was like shaking because I was so upset. And I was like, I'm just going to tell you right now, if he says anything else to me, I'm leaving. The shuttles are leaving. The bar is shutting down. Like, we will end this party. Like, if he says anything else. And she was like, I'm on it. And then the best man saw us talking, and he came over and he was like, you're doing a great job. And the entire wedding party, the entire like rest of the night, they were like, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. Like, seriously, you're doing a great job.
Was that the end of it with him?
Yes. Yeah. And even the bride's uncle, so like the dad's brother, came up to me and was like, he is like a tough cookie. Like, you did good, like dealing with him. And, you know, he's hard to deal with.
Like, great, thanks. But also, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Ever again.
And I was like, why? And it was one of those things where I'm like, not that they were necessarily making excuses for him, but it was one of those things where I'm like, why do you let him act like that?
Yeah.
And I think it was one of those things where it was like, you know,
why do I have to get to the point
that's
of
just
that?
how he is.
Right.
And I'm like, no,
Unacceptable. No.
So yeah, anyway, I added that. addendum to my contract, and I haven't had anyone question it.
I don't think
since I
anybody
added
would
it.
question like, oh, we want to be able to harass
Yes.
like and verbally abuse the
Yeah.
people that we pay to be at our wedding.
Exactly. And the only, actually, I do take that back. There was one couple I sent it to where their wedding was like the month later, and they were like, whoa, like, so you're just saying you're going to leave if we talk to you the wrong way? And I think he was like a lawyer or something.
Okay.
And so he was like just caught off guard by and I was like, you don't have to sign it, but if you say anything negative to my girls, like, they are going to leave, like, just so you know.
Yeah.
And the bride like had chimed in because we were all on a thread, and she was like, oh yeah, like I'm in customer service, I deal with it, like, like, we're not gonna do that to you guys. But so anyway, that was definitely the worst case scenario that I had to add that to my contracts, because I was like, because I had also heard stories from my girls where they were like, because I'm like, I got a bunch of tough cookies on my team, but there were multiple girls that were telling me stories about how they were crying because of how parents were talking to them. Parents. And I'm like, get a grip. And so I was like, absolutely not. You should have told me about that sooner. And if that ever happens again, you need to call me.
Yeah. So it was time to actually like solidify that into.
Yes, definitely. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, they're such tough cookies that they're just going to put up with it. And I'm like, no, you don't need to put up with that.
Right.
Like, that is absurd and unacceptable on their part. And I'm not going to stand for it. I'm like going all mama bear. And they're like, no, it's fine. I'm like, but it's not. It's not. Yeah. So yeah, that was probably the biggest one. All the other things, it's like little policy things where it's like, we're not going to bus tables. We're not going to be your DJ. We're not going to make announcements for you. Like, hire a DJ. But yeah, true. That was the biggest like thing, like worst thing that happened was the dad was just being a
guest
jerk.
behavior.
Guest behavior.
So I keep talking about.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole episode of just like guest behavior. Truly.
Yeah.
Like,
literally.
it is obscene.
Literally.
Okay. You ready for some spicy wedding myths? Okay.
Spicy.
You don't need a planner if your venue has an on-site coordinator.
False.
Okay, why?
So your on-site coordinator, and every venue is unique, it depends, but your on-site coordinator is usually there for the venue specifically. And I can also say this because I work for venues.
We've seen you.
Yes.
Yeah, we're like, what are you doing here?
I'm everywhere. She's everywhere. I'm everywhere. But yeah, so venue people work for the venue, and they're like, they want you to have a good day, but their priority is the venue. And so if we have, inventory we have to do, if we have, cleaning that has to be done, if we need to do something with measurement, like whatever the case may be, like our priority is the venue, the temperature of the room, the whatever,
the lights, the
the
whatever.
lights, making sure things are working, like that type of thing. So I don't want to say we don't care, but like as a venue staff, we are not focused on your setup or your timeline or when your vendors are arriving. We don't know those details as a venue staff. And some venue coordinators are a little bit more involved, and they are more involved in the timeline, but also just think about the fact if something happens with the venue, then like that person is now gone because they're dealing with the venue crisis, and they're not focused on your timeline and making sure your DJ is going to make announcements or whatever because they're focused on the venue thing. Or they're taking out the trash, or they're doing whatever with the venue. So having, and that's a question I've had to answer, like as a coordinator, wedding planner coordinator, where it's like, I'm here for you. Like, and if something happens with the venue, I can go get the venue staff to take care of it. And I can be here for you and your people and your vendors, to make sure we're running on time, to make sure, if we need to rearrange, we can do that. But yeah, I would say that's the biggest difference is like the venue coordinator. Obviously, as venue staff, we are also here for you. Like, we do want you to have a great day, but it's just not as involved with you and your specific details as like the actual wedding planner coordinator is going to be.
Yeah. It sounds like it's like, okay, really the main concern from a venue coordinator, it's just the venue.
Yeah.
It's obviously you as a couple too.
Yes.
But like, they're not specifically just for you.
Yes.
Like they are for, okay.
Yeah.
Their priority like they are here for you in the sense that they're going to make sure your venue is in tip top shape. But
That's a good way to put it.
That is their priority.
Yep.
Like that is how they're going to be here for you.
Love that. Okay. Can your friend be a coordinator? What if my bestie girl is so organized and type A?
Her name is Christina. She once planned her like senior prom.
And she planned her own wedding.
Duh.
Easy.
She planned her own wedding. Oh god. I love hearing that. They're like, oh, I get inquiry like things about that all the time. They're like, I planned my wedding and now I want to be a wedding planner. I'm like, what?
Very different story.
We're a little different. But I would say, because obviously I have friends that are getting married and they say that to venues and they're like, oh, my friend is a wedding planner. But I'm a legit
Actual wedding planner.
That's true.
insurance, employees, business license, pay taxes. Like I am a wedding planner. But yes, the people who are like, oh, my friends, like she could do it. And I'm like, okay.
She could. Should she?
I've never wanted to punch somebody more in my life than a friend wedding planner I had a few years ago. Unhinged. Unhinged.
Unhinged.
I just,
Unhinged.
it's also one of those things where I'm like, has your friend, like they haven't worked at this venue before. And so like what happens when they're doing everything that we normally do at this venue, they're not doing any of that. And then they're going to get, and it's going to come back on you and blah, blah, blah. The biggest thing with friends doing any sort of vendor stuff, whether it's bartending, DJing, catering, literally anything, is they are a friend and they want to be involved in your day as a friend.
Yep.
And so I literally one time had a bartender friend who like left the bar, and so people were self-serving, and it was like my worst case nightmare, nightmare. And so when it comes to planner, I'm like, there are so many things as a coordinator planner that we have to pay attention to, that if they are distracted because one of your other friends from college is there and they're trying to catch up, like they're not going to be there.
There's
for
liability behind that too.
liability.
So
Big
whoops.
time.
Yep.
Yeah. And like if you are upset because something's not getting done, maybe it's because your coordinator is over there talking to your roommate from high school or college. Like it's with the planning process. Yes, I think friends can definitely help out if they're type A and they're whatever aspiring wedding planner, whatever they are. But when it comes to the actual coordination, you need to have a third party present, someone who is a professional. And like, even if they know people, I've had weddings where like I know people, but I am there to do my job. And we are there to make sure that like, you know, things go off without a hitch.
Yeah.
Except one hitch, but that's the only hitch.
The only
I do
hitch.
with you, and then that's it.
Everything else is easy.
Yes.
Okay. What about rain? Can rain ruin your wedding day?
No, of course not.
Because
it's good luck.
It's good luck.
No, there's always, and I would say like, if that is something that like, if you are in that mindset where like rain could ruin your wedding day, then pick an indoor venue. Because if rain's going to ruin it and it rains and you're going to fall apart, then like, this is not going to work for you.
There's nothing beyond that can.
Yes, because then you're going to be focused on it. But I feel like we get so caught up in, you know, the hullabaloo of weddings that like a lot of times people forget, you know, why they're there. Like I know that a lot of time and money and effort has gone into it, but you're there to get married. And so you will get married rain or shine.
Yeah.
So, and like majority of venues have a very good rain backup plan.
Yes.
And it's one of those things where people are not going to really remember that whether you got married outside, inside, whatever, like what happened, the shuffle, like they're just going to remember you getting married.
Yeah,
And like,
sure.
that's what you need to focus on. And a lot of times, I know that we all know this, a lot of times, especially in this area, it might rain in the morning, but it might clear up later. And so I wouldn't stress. And don't look at the radar 2 weeks out.
No, God, please don't.
Don't look at the radar 2 weeks out because
no.
it's going to change, especially in this area. I had a bride who texted me like 3-4 days ago, and she was like, because I have a wedding tomorrow, and she was like, is it going to rain? Is it going to ruin everything? And I was like, no, it's probably going to change. I said, I'm not going to check the weather until I'm on my way up to the venue that morning, like tomorrow morning.
Truly. Because I'm like, even like hour by hour, it's so different.
It can
shift. Change quickly.
Yes.
Quickly. Okay.
Yeah.
This is my favorite one. The wedding is only about the couple. Meaning there's a lot of other people involved.
Yes.
But it's only about the couple.
Yes. I would
thought on
say yes and no. Yes, it is about the couple. And I would say ultimately when it comes to like wedding planning, it's like ultimately, yes, it's their decision. The only like caveat to that is that one is very like a gray area because when people are paying for things, they have a sense of entitlement, which I do hate, but I also kind of understand. But my biggest thing is I'm like, and I think it like starts at the beginning when it's like if you're a parent or a guardian or whoever, and you're giving money for this wedding, for this couple getting married, if you are going to give them that money with strings attached, you need to be communicative about that. Because if you are only going to pay for catering, if they do a plated meal, past apps, 5-course meal with whatever, and coffee service at the end, you need to express that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think you need to give them whatever you're going to give them, let them use it towards whatever they're catering they're going to do. They can take what you say into advisement, but ultimately it's their wedding.
Is it a gift or is it a check with attachment?
Strings attached. Yeah. I think that is definitely a big thing, that the communication just needs to be there. And as a couple, I think that's something, if someone is gifting you money, maybe you want to communicate that with them, to just say like, hey, you know, I really appreciate that you're giving us this money. Like, is there something you're expecting to see, like, with this money being given to us? Or is this, you know, like, whatever? And it might not come until you get into it that they say, like, you know, oh, well, we were expecting you to do a full bar since we gave you money for the bar. And saying, you know, well, we just figured it'd be, you know, better to stick with beer and wine. We don't want things to get out of hand. So we're going to use the rest of this money towards whatever. If that is not okay with you, then we're welcome to give you back whatever you wanted us to spend on full bar. Otherwise, like, it's going to go towards the cake as well, or whatever. I just feel like there's a lot of communication that has to be done. And it's really hard, I know, especially when it comes to money, because talking about money
it's awkward.
is icky.
It's so
It is awkward.
It's so awkward.
That was one
It
awkward
is.
thing I remember about planning. Like, hey, mom and dad,
Yeah.
is there a number?
Yeah.
Give me some money.
Yeah.
I think why that was one of my favorite myths too is because there is this idea, and it is truth, that it is about the couple.
Yeah.
However, there's a
Yes.
lot of like, well, what about me? And like, what about this? And like, so-and-so auntie is coming from so-and-so. Like, there's always something that you're just kind of like, wait a minute, this isn't about me.
Yeah.
This is, and like, there's a fine line of this is about me, but we're inviting external sources in for money or for opinions or whatever. It does open up those floodgates a little bit.
And I think that's something I've told one of my friends that's getting married, and just other brides, where I'm like, people, you know, mom will say something about like, well, auntie, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but is auntie paying for it? Is auntie, like, no. And I think ultimately, even when it comes to things like family drama or whatever, like,
Eric,
could you imagine?
looking at me because I'm like,
but it's one of those things where it's like, again, for me personally, with my wedding, I'm kind of like, if you have issues, you leave it at the door and you can come, or if you have issues, you will kindly be asked to leave.
So
it is not about you. It is about us. And I think there is that fine line too, where it's like, it's about me and Michael, but it's also like, it's about us wanting to share this moment with you. But if you are going to turn it around to whatever you want or whatever is happening with you, then it
ain't the date or the time or the reason. Like, come on.
Then it's no longer about us. It's now turning its attention to you, which I don't care. Like, that's my thing, where I'm like, I am to the point where, and like, sometimes it is hard, but for me, I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
Good.
What kind of bride do you think you're going to be on the wedding day?
Honestly, I haven't gotten that far. I'm not sure. Because how you said photography is really important to me.
Yeah.
So that was the first vendor I booked.
Yeah.
Obviously, coordination and planning and all that good stuff is very important to me. And people are like, who's going to coordinate your
Yeah.
wedding? And I'm like, that's a great question.
Oh,
That's what I was
don't
gonna.
know.
I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, because I don't trust anyone.
Yeah.
Even my very good planner friends that are so amazing and wonderful, I don't trust anyone. So I don't know, but I will figure it out. It's on my to-do list.
Are you when you hire someone?
Yes.
Will you create the timeline or will you let
Yes.
them make it?
No.
Okay.
No. My timeline.
She said no.
Well, and I think it's one of those things where it's like, I'm going to create my timeline. And then like, if they need to, take something from my timeline or make it their own. Cause like I said, when I've coordinated for other planners, I take their timeline and put it into my timeline to make sure I have all my ducks in a row. So I'm like, if that is what would help you, then that's fine.
Yeah.
Send it to me too, so I can make sure it's like whatever. But I also have talked about the girls that are like invited to my wedding and are going to be there. I'm like, I've thought about offering them. I'm like, do you just want to be a guest or like, do you want to work?
Yeah.
Because if you want to like take a little shift and, do something, then like, cool, we can,
we can
because
work that out.
there's not a lot that's going to have to be done the day of really, because I think all the setup will be able to be done the day before.
Oh, that's nice.
That's really, really nice.
So yeah, especially with my venue, like they're pretty chill and they know me. So I think they're kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever. So,
Yeah, come on over the day before.
yeah. So, but yeah, I think that's going back to it's all about the bride and groom. I think it's one of those things where it is about us, but I think I am putting but I'm putting emphasis on, for my personal wedding, like I want to do things to involve other people. And like, I want a lot of time for us to be able to mingle with our people, especially because like if we have 200 people, like it's going to take a while to mingle with all them. So I'm like, I want to extend cocktail hour. I want to do a soft entrance. I want to extend dinner. I want to talk to people then. I'll probably be talking to people. I'm not much of a dancer. I'm more of like a chit chatter. So I'll probably be chit chatting more than dancing.
Kenzie on the dance floor?
Yeah, I'm not a huge dancer. I'll probably be on and off, but depends on the song.
Yeah, it's fair.
So,
I was going to say, there's going to be one song. What is your song?
yes, Fergalicious.
Yes.
When you said that the other day, you were like,
Fergalicious.
yes, I was like, I literally was in my car. I was like, yeah. Yes,
I knew
that
it.
is
I knew
literally-
it.
That's my jam. Every single time it comes on, like at a wedding, I'm always like,
I know, it's so good.
How
It's
can
just
you
a
not
classic.
like that song, though?
I know. It's
I
so
have
good.
lots
You're a
of
monster.
songs. I do have
if
lots
you don't
of
like it,
songs.
I'm sorry. Do something
That's
wrong
it.
with you.
Dead. You're dead.
We cannot be friends. You can't sit here.
Okay, we can kind of end it on this note,
Yeah.
but what is one piece of advice or one thing that you do tell your brides or would tell a bride that is at the beginning of their planning process? What would you tell them?
I would say the biggest thing is like, I tell people this all the time, and I'm like, I don't know if it helps or not, but I'm like, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's like, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not that serious. Like, you're gonna have a good night. If it rains, you're gonna be fine. If it's whatever, like, it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
You're gonna be great. You're gonna get married. That's the most important thing. Yeah. Throughout everything, that is the thing to like keep in mind, is like refocus on why you're doing this in the first place. And that's so you guys can get married.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I think it's really easy to get swept up in, all the different details and who's coming and what it's going to look like and yada, yada. And that is all things that are great and fine and dandy, but you were here to get married. And I would make sure that that is your focus. Because I think that's something like that's another myth, or not, it might not be a myth, but another thing I've heard is like, the more money is spent on a wedding, like the least likely it is to work out or something like that. And I feel like there could be a little bit of truth to that, because I think people do get caught up in, I've had a lot of people like throughout the years when I was like dating different guys and stuff that were like, I don't think you want a marriage. I think you want a wedding.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you're not wrong. But
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
yeah,
both.
a little bit of both. But I think when it comes to Michael, like him and I are just so on the same page about everything that it's one of those things where I'm like, I do care about the details, but not as much as I feel like I have in the past when I thought about my wedding, because I'm like, ultimately it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like, I'm just excited to, like, we're going to be married and we're going to be there with all our friends and family, and we're going to just have a good time no matter what happens. And so I think that's the priority that you have to keep in mind.
Yeah. I think that's so good.
Good little note to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited when you texted me.
Yeah. I just feel like you have such a good perspective. So.
And I love podcasting.
Well, come on back.
Come on back.
No,
Anytime.
absolutely.
Just let me know, girlie.
Good, right?